Greetings internet, it's Monica, and today I am coming at you with one of my favorite videos of the year to film, and that is my most anticipated books video. This video is looking forward to 2019, specifically mostly the first half of 2019, and the books that I am most excited to read. These are the books that I am just so highly anticipating, that I just think about and I just get so excited for the new year and new books, even though I have so many books still to read. My TBR is just ever growing and I'm pretty excited about it. I'm especially excited about this year's books because I was making my list and I realized that there are so many stories about Asian characters by Asian authors, and that just like brings me so much joy. Like I have a few books in here that feature Korean protagonists, and that, I'm just so excited and happy about that. So without further ado, let's jump in with my most anticipated books of 2019. The first book that I am very excited for comes out on January 8th, and that is The Girl King by Mimi Liu. This book follows two sisters, Min and Lu has always been, they're both daughters of the emperor, and Lu has always been sort of on the path to becoming the first female empress of this nation, and Min has always just sort of resigned herself to living in Lu's shadow. However, at the beginning of the book, their father ends up playing a little switcheroo apparently, and decides to instead make one of their cousins the heir, a male heir. And Lu ends up taking off and running away in order to build an army to take back her throne. Meanwhile, Min stays back and ends up discovering hidden powers, her own hidden powers, and these could potentially be used to help Lu ascend to the throne or become Lu's enemy and help her cousin Set ascend to the throne. So this one, lots of family drama, lots of politics is what it sounds like. Plus it is East Asian inspired, and it just sounds very intriguing, and it comes out very soon, which I'm excited about. Then on January 15th, Dragon Pearl by Yoon Ha Lee comes out, and this is a sci-fi middle grade adventure story which pulls from Korean mythology, and it is brought out and it is being published as one of the Rick Riordan Presents books, which I really love. This, like, I don't know what it would be called, if it's like an imprint or something like that, but I really love this sort of like world of Rick Riordan Presents, because I feel like they're really putting a huge focus on bringing diverse stories into the world, and I just love that. So this story follows Min, whose family are fox spirits. However, they have to hide that part of themselves and all of their magic because magic has been outlawed in their planet. And Min dreams about following in her brother Jun's footsteps and going out adventuring and seeking out the 1,000 worlds. And so in the story, they end up hearing a report that Jun has abandoned his post and has gone off searching for this powerful and mysterious object called the Dragon Pearl. So Min ends up running away to figure out what is going on. So yeah, I'm super interested in this one because I love the idea of mixing like fantasy and magic with sci-fi and space. I think that sounds really fun, and I'm just really intrigued to see like how the mythology is sort of woven throughout. Then on January 29th is possibly the book I'm most excited for in 2019. One of them, at least, and it is King of Scars by Lee Bardugo. I'm so excited. Okay, so Nikolai is everything to me. He was definitely one of my favorite parts about the Shadow and Bone Grisha initial trilogy. I loved his character so much. I loved his story arc. I loved everything about Nikolai. And so I have been waiting for a Nikolai spin-off story for so long, and I'm so excited that it is happening, that it's coming out. I have not read Six of Crows or the second book in that duology yet, which I know I need to do. I need to do that before this one comes out because I know that a character from Six of Crows is going to be in this duology about Nikolai, so I need to do that. But if you have not read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I didn't love the ending, I'll be honest, but I think it's about the journey, you know, like those characters, that mythology, that story is so good and fun and rich, and I just loved reading about it. And I think that definitely if you are planning on going into reading this Nikolai story, you should have that background about where he came from, because I know that this story is very much so showing the effects of everything that happened in that initial trilogy. At least that's what I've gathered from the synopsis. And I can't talk about the synopsis because I don't want to ruin the initial trilogy, but I highly recommend it. I love the Grisha universe, and I feel like I want to do a reread sometime in January of like the Grisha trilogy, and then read Six of Crows and the second book, which I'm totally blanking on the name of. But I love Nikolai so much, so I'm so excited to see him again. Yeah, he's like one of my top fictional crushes, for sure. I cannot wait for this book. I can't wait for Nikolai to be back in my life, because it has been far too long, basically. Then coming out on March 12th is The Waking Forest, and this book has been compared to The Hazelwood meets Pan's Labyrinth. And I'll be honest, I actually don't like either of those things. I liked the idea of The Hazelwood, and I liked parts of the story when I read it, but I just didn't think that it fulfilled like the expectations, or like what it was building up to just like didn't end up panning out as well as I was hoping it to. So I didn't love The Hazelwood. I am definitely planning on reading more by that author, because the first like 2/3 of that book I thought was brilliant. It was just like when it came to the actual like magical stuff, I just thought it was very lackluster. So I am intrigued to see how, you know, their future work pans out. Pan's Labyrinth was too violent for me. I can't handle like really visceral violence. So even though I really liked the story and the like cinematography and all of that, I couldn't watch it. But the ideas of both of those things are things that I really enjoy. So even though I'm not a fan of either, I am excited for this book because I like the idea of both of those types of stories. Does that make any sense? It's just like, I really am into like very atmospheric, fairy tale-like environments. This one I'm intrigued by because a lot of the early reviews I've read for it have just gone on and on about how beautiful the writing is, which I am a huge sucker for. I love some pretty prose. But this story follows Ray, who basically has these visions of this forest, but every time she like reaches out for it, it disappears. It's like a mirage. And then there's this witch who like is sitting or sits on a bone of a throne of bones, and she ends up being visited by these children who like beg her to grant their wishes, and it's about their paths crossing. Sounds intriguing, sounds really vague to be honest, but potentially very good. We'll see. Hopefully I like it more than I liked The Hazelwood. Then coming out April 2nd is The Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. This is a Chinese-inspired fantasy, and it follows Princess Hesina of Yan, where magic has been banned for centuries. And at the beginning of the story, her father, the emperor, ends up being murdered, and she seeks out the help of a soothsayer, which is illegal because magic is illegal, and she ends up seeking out the help of a soothsayer to try and figure out how he was murdered and who murdered him. So this is that story. It sort of takes off from there. She ends up getting involved with, I'm assuming, a cast of other characters, but I'm excited for this one. The cover is stunning for this. That was like the first thing that drew me in, but then I'm also very intrigued for this sort of like murder mystery fantasy story. Then one of my favorite authors of all time, Maureen Gu, has a new book coming out on May 7th, and that is Somewhere Only We Know. And this story I'm so excited for because it follows a K-pop idol. Basically, one of our main characters is this girl who is a K-pop idol. She's having her sort of American debut on The Tonight Show or some sort of night show, and it follows like her potential romance with this like tabloid reporter. And I'm so excited for it. I love Maureen Gu. I love K-pop. So what more could I ask for? I'm also like low-key currently working on my own like K-pop inspired contemporary story. So this will actually be interesting to read what another author is doing or what another writer is doing along those lines. But I'm so excited for this book. It sounds really fun. I love everything I've read by Maureen Gu, so I cannot wait to read this one. It sounds super fun and over the top and just like everything I could want, to be honest. Everything I could want. I'm so hyped. So I have 3 more books on my most anticipated list. This is the last one though that I have a date for. And I should also throw in this disclaimer that like all these dates might shift because publishing sort of always in flow. So if they shift, I'm sorry, just, add them to your Goodreads and you should be up to date on when they come out. But the next book that I want to talk about is Gumiho by Kat Cho, and this one comes out on June 25th. So this is a fantasy romance that is set in Seoul, and it involves the mythology of the gumiho, which are basically 9-tailed foxes. So Mi Young and her mom live in plain sight in Seoul as secretly they are gumihos. And basically a gumiho is a nine-tailed fox that eats the souls of men in order to survive, and they survive by eating the souls of like bad men who get off of various crimes. However, in the story, she ends up crossing paths with a boy because she saves him from a evil goblin, and they sort of end up developing a relationship, from my understanding. I'm excited for this one because I have been really wanting to read books set in Seoul, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the sort of interconnection of this like mythology and to see that sort of in this modern day setting. Really excited about that. I love the idea of like having a paranormal romance, but like Korean. Yes, I want that. That sounds amazing because paranormal romance was like a huge trend and people keep saying that it's dead, but it's like, okay, we've seen a billion different werewolf and vampires about like, white people who are straight, but what about like diverse stories that are paranormal romances? And I'm hyped that that's happening, and I cannot wait for this book because it just sounds so good. These all sound so good. I'm so excited for all these things. I'm sorry. I probably seem a little bouncy in this video, but it's because I am so excited. And also, I had too much coffee. So then I have 2 more books that I want to talk about, and that neither of these have set release dates, but I am so excited for them. The first one is Guardians of Dawn. So the first one I want to talk about is Guardians of Dawn by S.J. Jones, who is the author of Winter Song, which I have not read. However, this one struck me because it has been compared to Sailor Moon, which is my one true love. So I'm gonna just read this like short little blurb because that's all that there has been published about it, but it says, inspired by girl-centric narratives like Sailor Moon, 4 girls must combine their elemental magic to defeat a growing evil and restore the rightful heir to the throne. And I'm so excited for that because I love elemental magic and I love Sailor Moon. So combine them together and I'm here for it. Lastly, but certainly not least, this is probably in a tie for my number 1 most anticipated book of the new year. This one might actually be number 1, and that is Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell. Can you believe? Wow, I still remember the moment when I learned that this would be a thing. I shrieked. I screamed. It was a time. I think I was at Book Expo, and I remember like walking into Book Expo and being like, I have to find Kat. Like, I have to find Kat. We have to freak out. Where is she? She was in a meetup, so I like had to wait for her to get out. Anyways, I cannot even begin to tell you how excited I am that this story is continuing. I love Carry On. It was one of my favorite books of all time. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I can't say enough amazing things about it. I loved all the feelings that it gave me because it gave me so many feelings, but I also like love everything that like Rainbow Rowell was saying with the story. And like when you really think about it, it is a very dark story, and it's a really dark sort of look at chosen one stories in general. And I think it's one of the most like interesting sort of looks at chosen ones and the whole idea of a chosen one and that whole narrative and how it's like so ingrained in us. And even if you look at like our culture and like things like, you know, military propaganda, like there's so much intertwined there. And I just think she does such a brilliant job of like eviscerating that while also being this weird like love letter to it. I just think it's brilliant. It's so good. I love Rainbow Rowell, and I cannot wait for this story to be out so I can read it from cover to cover and then shut it and then restart it, because that was exactly what I did with Carry On. I think I reread it like 3 times because I just fell so in love with it when I read it. I cannot wait. I'm so excited for this book. 2019 is looking to be a very, very good reading year, and I'm hyped. So I would love to hear in the comments down below, what books are you most excited for in 2019? What books out of the ones that I've mentioned here today are you most excited for? And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!